I will admit that it took me a while to actually say truthfully, I love to. But when I did, I found a completely unique new way to live. To love to, instead of hate to. Shof even taught me to pay my bills with enthusiasm. He said the next time you pay $100 on an account, put a note inside with your check that says, "With great excitement I send you this $100. He said you won't believe what happens on the other end. They don't get many notes like that. But best of all, you won't believe what happens on your end. The new feeling of being in control and having a philosophy of life that brings joy instead of frustration. This whole new attitude will create for you a whole new world. Remember, it's something anyone can do." Mr. Shof got me to open my first savings account. He said, "Do you have a savings account?" I said, "I don't have enough money." And he reminded me, it's not the amount that counts, it's the plan. The important thing is to begin. Wealth is a plan, not an amount. He asked me if I had $10. I said, "Well, yes." He said, "Then open up your savings account and do it with your new attitude and enthusiasm." Well, that took some doing. I went to the bank in the town where I lived and walked in to open my account. I went to the window and told the lady I wanted to open up a savings account. She said, "Great. What is your name?" I said, "Mr. Rohn." She said, "Fine, Mr. Rohn, just fill out these papers." I filled them out, handed them back to her, and she said, "That's all in order. Now, how are we going to get this account started?" I said, "Put 10 in." She said, "10 what?" I said, $10. Now, can you imagine the scene? I'm a grown man, 25 years old. I have a family, I'm working, and opening up my first savings account with $10. I said, "Hey, this may not seem like much, but I have a great plan. In fact, before long, I'll probably have the largest savings account in this bank." She said, "Well, if you say so." It was a bit embarrassing, I must admit, but Shof said, "Get excited about where you're going, and excited about the fact that you are one of the few who have a wealth plan in place and working." To make a long story short, guess what? Within less than 3 years, I did have the largest savings account in that bank. Now, it was just a small country bank, but I did reach my goal. What magic! And how quickly it works once you develop a new plan and a new attitude and commit to the discipline to do it. Wealth plans, anyone can have them. Wealth goals, anyone can design them. Wealth habits and disciplines, anyone can develop them. Why not start today? This can be a new day that opens up a new future and creates a new excitement about life and its possibilities for you.
I talk to a lot of people who are about to have a breakthrough. They're about to have a breakthrough, but they have convinced themselves of one thing, that what they're going through, no one's ever gone through before. That their wall is bigger than everybody else's wall.
Everything around you is incredible if you're willing to look at it that way. Everything around you can be taken for granted if that's your perspective. But it really is about the frame that you choose to put around things. I mean, simply being alive is already insane. The odds are so stacked against you, not only just being a human, but being a human at this moment in time. This moment in time where breakthroughs in technology are happening at an unprecedented rate, where breakthroughs in medical science are happening at an unprecedented rate, where our ability to connect with people, to empathize with people all the way around the globe, all of the changes that have happened in technology and telecom and connectivity, health, everything. We're living in the most miraculous time ever. But you have to look at it that way. And as Joseph Campbell said, life is a wonderful, wonderful opera, except that it hurts.
But how do you get there? The tools are there to have a public identity and to go on the record, proudly so, and stand for who you really are.
Gary Player, the great golfer, he was a little guy, very little, but he worked really hard. And he had a great statement, but he'd go, "The harder I work, the luckier I get."
So the question is, do you see it as the beautiful opera? Or do you just pay attention to the pain? And at the end of the day, you're going to get what you focus on. They're both true. This is both the most amazing time that's ever happened ever in recorded history. And yet real things that are terrifying are also happening. But where you put your energy, where you put your attention, where you put your focus is going to determine what you see. And that is the most fascinating and the most important thing you have to understand about the way that your mind works. You get what you focus on. If you focus on the things that are bad, they will become real. They will become exaggerated. They will begin to monopolize your thoughts. You'll see them everywhere. It's called the reticular activating system. Your mind is literally designed to pay attention to the things that you notice. Once you notice a certain car, you see it everywhere. Once you notice a certain dog, you see it everywhere. Once you hear a certain name for the first time, suddenly you realize that that name has been all around you this entire time. But now that you're focusing on it, now that you're looking for it, it is everywhere. So whatever you look for, it's going to be everywhere. If you look for the negative, it'll be there. But if you look for the positive, it will overwhelm you.
No matter who you are, no matter where you are in life, you can take the lid off of your job. And if you're wondering if you still have the lid on in your life, here are some clues that's going to let you know that the lid is still on.
I thought it was over for me. And then the next meeting, some new engineers who didn't report to me and Larry Page himself showed up with ideas on what to do to solve this problem. And I was like, oh my God, I just became more powerful.
If you're not excited about waking up in the morning, if you're sitting around bored out of your mind, if you got time to do everything anybody asks you to do, you probably got the lid on. If when you tell your dreams to all your friends, it makes sense to them, you got your lid on, man. Your dreams should not make sense to everybody. You got to say something that make people go, how you going to do that? That's when you got the lid off. And if I were you, I'd do that. I'd take the lid off. Makes sense to me, don't it?
When you love what you do, when you really love what you do, you work harder.
I remember recently I got to introduce two of my modern day superheroes. It was Richard Branson and Stan Lee. Like, who's not Stan Lee, but Stan Lee? Who's Stan Lee? Yeah, the co-creator of Spider-Man and X-Men and Avengers and Fantastic Four. And we're going to dinner. I remember asking Stan, I was like, I have to know, you've created all these incredible superheroes. Who's your favorite? And he looks at me without a blink. He's like, Iron Man. I'm like, that's awesome. And then he's like, Jim, who's your favorite superhero? And he had this Spider-Man tie. So I was like, Spider-Man. And without a pause, he says, with great power comes... And how do we all know that, right? It's like in our DNA, right? So we're going on this superheroes journey together here at A-Fest. And I'm thinking about it. I'm like, and I grew up with these challenges, and I had, dyslexia, and I flip things around in my mind, and part of my issues growing up. And I flipped it in my mind. I was like, with great power comes great responsibility. When you're in a position of power, you have great responsibility to wield that power well. And the opposite is also true. With great responsibility comes great power. Right? When you take responsibility for something, you have great power to what? To change things, to transform things, to make things better. When I said responsibility, with great responsibility comes great power, the most important thing to be responsible for is how you feel. Does that make sense? And who controls how you feel? How many people are feeling pretty good right now? Yeah, and notice that these kind of things, why? Metaphorically, I look at you more like a thermostat than a thermometer. Is there a difference between a thermometer and thermostat? Yes or yes? A thermometer does what? What does a thermometer do? What's the function? it takes the time. It reflects and it reacts to the environment. Is that true? It just reacts to the environment. And we are sometimes, we're thermometers. We react to the weather, if we're honest, the economy, to politics. We react to how people treat us sometimes. But is there a gap between how someone stimulates us and how we respond? Do we have choice? Yes or yes? The difference between a thermometer and a thermostat, though, is a thermometer reacts to the environment. What does the thermostat do, though? Yeah, it regulates, right? It helps manage. It sets a standard or a vision or a goal, and then what happens to the environment? It raises to be able to do that. Is there a difference? Yes or yes? And so that's where we're going back to responsibility. When we're talking about being responsible, the ability to be able to respond is how you feel about things and also how you focus on things.